Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Explorers of Elsewhere. My name's Matt. I've managed to temporarily oust Dan from his DM's chair for the evening, and we're back playing some D&D 5e. But we decided to mix it up a little bit because for tonight, the Forgotten Realms just aren't nerdy enough for us. So what's nerdier than playing D&D, I hear you ask? Well, playing D&D set in the world of Warhammer, I tell you. That's what. So all of us here tonight are long-term Warhammer fans. I think that's pretty fair to say, isn't it, guys?
Oh yeah,
we've already played
fantasy football.
We've already played one long-term campaign set in the Old World and several one-shots in the setting as well. And we thought we'd record one tonight for your viewing pleasure. We've got several new explorers with us, so it'd be great if we could go around and introduce ourselves. So what I want from you is your name, how long you've been playing D&D or RPGs in general, and then what your favourite Warhammer faction is. Okay, so if we start with Dan, do you want to?
Yeah, hello, hi. Hi, I'm Dan. I've got a small channel called Explorers of Elsewhere. I've been playing like tabletop RPGs for how old am I? So like 16 plus years. It's been a while. I've forgotten. I've screwed it, boys. So how long we've been playing?
Warhammer faction.
Favorite Warhammer faction. 100%. The latter half of Orcs and Goblins.
Yeah, we don't talk about the former half.
Yeah. And I think I surprised no one here when I say the Goblins are my favourite faction.
Amazing. Thank you, Dan. Tim, do you want to go next?
Hello, I'm Tim. You might have seen me in a couple of other of the games we've played here on EOE. I've been playing TTRPGs for a few years now, on and off. And yeah, I really love all of them. I'm going to be trying Call of Cthulhu soon, and I'm excited for it. My favourite Warhammer faction is the Beastmen, because they're beautiful. They're lovely little boys, and they will kick you in the face for no reason at any time, and that's why they're brilliant.
Beautiful goatee legs.
Oh, they're powerful, robust, bulging muscles.
They're firm.
Let's move on to Callum. Let's move on.
I'm going to cut you off there, Tim.
You're getting excited.
I mean, are you telling me I've got to get my real name here? I'm feeling a bit. So I'm Callum. I've been playing assorted tabletop games and tabletop RPGs for 20 years. I guess it turns out I'm actually quite old. Favourite Warhammer faction is probably Chaos Dwarves. You know, they have fabulous hats, and what more do you need in an army of tiny plastic soldiers?
Amazing. Yeah, with you on that. The hats are all important. Staff?
Hey folks, yeah, I'm Staff, aka Hyper G, depending on where you find me. I have been playing Warhammer or RPG games for about 20 years as well, same as Callum. I mentioned we're a bit similar age, I'm probably a bit older. Probably Lizardmen would be my favourite faction, which could be potentially interesting tonight. Not that I'm overly aware of what's going on tonight. But yeah, I just love Lizardmen. Always love the dinosaurs, and it's a real favourite faction of mine.
Just as an aside, do we all have to take a shot if at some point during this one shot you actually Matt with some Lizardman lore?
I will promise not to do that, mainly because I've forgotten most of it. So it's all good.
And the thing is, the more shots you make me take, the worse my recollection of Lizardman lore is going to get. So
it's like a circle.
The vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Still, if you've forgotten the Lizardman lore, I'm sure you can find some old scraps of it written down and just wildly misinterpret it to do some nonsense.
That's what they do. Yeah.
That's the plan.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
The prophecy.
All
It's
right.
the prophecy.
Well, thanks, Staff. Last but not least, Tom?
Yeah, Tom, aka Lucky Sixes, with Hyper G's, we'll say colleague. I have also been playing a while, thanks to Staff, in various games and things like that. Ninth Age, Warhammer, D&D, a little bit of Fallout D&D as well. previously. And favourite faction is the pointy-eared High Elves because they're better than everyone, I think. So,
boo.
Yeah, we've just lost half our audience right there.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, and I'm okay with it. So.
Well, despite being outraged that no one mentioned my beloved Wood Elves, that's a great round of introductions. So, are we happy to kick off?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Ready to go.
All right. Well, welcome, explorers, to the coast of the fabled continent of Lustria. It is rumoured to be the home of a long-lost civilization that far surpasses the Empire in both sophistication and learning. Only the most eccentric academics put any stock in such tales. For you, they have always been children's stories. But then, some of you have just returned from Nehekara, where the legends and nightmares of men turned out to be all too real. Many months later, and with your terrible ordeal amongst the pyramids fading into memory, you find yourselves employed by one Frederik Rosenblatt, a wealthy count and patron of the Imperial Museum at Altdorf. It seems that several months ago he funded an expedition to the shores of Lustria to recover definitive proof of past civilizations, along with new exhibits for the museum. The party of researchers, soldiers and adventurers successfully landed in Lustria without incident, but have since sent word that they're having some problems. People have been disappearing, and you were to take the first available ship there to sort out the problem and recover whatever relics you can. So you're there as his insurance policy, effectively, to make sure that he secures something for his investment, which is pretty considerable. And one stormy and treacherous voyage later, you find yourself standing on a sandy beach, sweating profusely through your clothes. The humidity is unbearable, worse even than the dry heat of Nehekara. Biting insects assail you constantly, looking for any piece of exposed skin they can find. Ahead of you, up a small slope, just here, you can see two guards who keep a weary vigil at the entrance to a cluster of squalid wooden huts. They look ramshackle and damp, as if they've been built from driftwood and are slowly in the process of rotting away. Beyond the camp is only the jungle, seemingly endless and impenetrable, and emitting ominous creaks, hoots, and other alarming noises. As you take stock of your surroundings and exchange some nervous glances with your companions, what do each of you see? If you could describe your characters for me, that'd be great. And we'll go around in the same order. So, Dan, do you want to kick us off?
I guess standing kind of slightly off from who I've assumed to be like a gathered group of mercenaries who've got some shared stories, is a tall, if somewhat wiry, bald man sporting a rather voluptuous full beard. There's an iron circlet that crosses his forehead, and he wears the regalia of a warrior priest of Sigmar. He's reading through some of the psalms that in the tome he's holding, and sort of like below his battle skirt, you can see what appears to be an old soldier's uniform in the reds and blues of the Reichland. But as he slams the tome shut, he mutters. He kind of finishes his prayer to Sigmar and then kind of strides forwards towards one of the halberdiers. I was expecting more of a welcome party.
The harassed looking guard on watch. He's probably like a fairly young man, but he seems to have kind of aged beyond his years. His face is kind of sunken. He looks pale. He's sweating like the rest of you. He looks kind of feverish, really. He seems to have difficulty kind of focusing on your words, but he jerks his he sort of jerks to attention and sorry, Father, we're a little short-staffed right now. You'll want to talk to Janus at the tent behind me, at the building behind me. He'll see you right. and he gestures to this hut over here.
Very well. Sigmar, bless your child. And I'll go to walk and then remember, and I'll stop and turn to look at the group. And since over that kind of treacherous journey on the ship, I kept my eyes on one fellow in particular who seemed a bit shiftier than the others. A little halfling. I say little, a portly halfling.
Don't know what you're on about. He's as innocent as the day he was born. Yeah, standing at a towering 3'7", is the halfling Bill the Butcher Crumb, called the Butcher because he was at one point in his life a butcher. Roughly as wide as he is tall. He's in his little leather apron. He's mostly covered up to avoid the biting bugs, but it's going to take more than that to get a halfling to cover up his feet. So they are the only port of exhaust for his massive rivers of sweat that are currently engulfing him and gathering in what in a more futuristic setting would be called a porn star tash that adorns his lip. He's got himself a little helmet that he's going to hope is going to keep him cool in the jungle. Probably isn't. And he's just wandering. He's flatly staring at this Sigmarite, puffing on a cigar, and just is staring at you in a way that could not possibly make it more clear that you are wasting everyone's time. Although I think it's probably only because you've known him on the ship for a little bit that that he's the first one you look at, because I would imagine that the person you would normally get attention near him is the one that he's standing next to, who is toweringly vast. If I want to throw over to Shooter.
Oh, you're muted, Tom.
Oh, yeah, you muted, Tom.
Yeah. So Shooter is your typical ogre mercenary. He has always been a mercenary. He's never been anything else. He's in it for the money, and met Bill on one of the expeditions and has taken a liking to him, and ever since brought him along to it. Most of the things I say brought him along, he also tags along with Bill in equally fashion. In terms of appearance, he's got a pretty well armored plate, or chest plate, covered with a really huge sort of long coat or blazer-esque, with big gauntlets. He's got huge baggy trousers with some knee pad things. So the only skin that you see on him is his sweaty, red-faced, one eye-patched face there. He's got some big boots. He's just bought some big boots with the latest mercenary expedition, and conveniently they also turn into a bed for Bill should he need it. Although it may not be the setting for a nice, comfy, fluffy bed in Lustria. Otherwise he's the only other things you'd notice about him is a very cowboy-esque hat and two, which he is known for, two pistols either side of his huge belt going around the actual coat that he's got. He's a gunslinger by nature and uses the guns not only for gunslinging and toy monsters, but virtually everything else he can get away with. So we'll see how that gets on as well. Probably he's sweating and going to Bill for some rations as always. But thankfully on the trip there is also a wizard that does have an air of cold about them, and perhaps he's staying rather close to that wizard to try and just wait for the moment she might cast any ice spells.
Yeah, and I think Naxine El-Sueza is standing nearby, probably flexing her fingers with a few small shards of frostbite, which manifest as ice capsules in her palm, which she's been using just to dab her forehead a little bit. And having recently changed her hairstyle from a very wax-heavy mohawk style, which she dropped having spent some time in the deserts of Nehekara, suffering with a lot of melted wax down her face. She's now switched to quite long, flowing white hair, which is perfectly white, naturally white, not through dyed means, something she's never really been able to explain or given much thought to. And then plaited down her back, quite long now. She hasn't cut it in a number of years. And she wears a long robe, quite slim-lined boots, and having been quite averse with ice magic over the course of her wizardly history, and she's also quite unknowingly, I wouldn't say plagued, but visited by dreams that give her small portents towards the future, which she is rather private in explaining upon times, but she has accompanied this group of individuals fairly recently and found that they ask relatively few questions, and she quite likes that because despite having spent the last few months of her life not really knowing much about her previous years, she's never been able to escape the feeling of being chased, and these individuals who don't ask questions suits her perfectly. Although, having seen the warrior priest step forwards, she does cast a sideways glance towards our other companion in the party, as she does wonder somewhat whether he is particularly happy with the rather forthcoming behaviour of this warrior priest, wondering whether Demetrius likes that or not, and she looks his way.
So, yes, you see Demetrius giving a sidelong glance to the back of the warrior priest as he walks past. Demetrius is probably best described as a typical Altdorf or Nuln dandy boy. He is completely inappropriately attired for the conditions. He is wearing a sort of high set of very, very fine riding boots, obviously incredibly expensive. Generally very, very fine and expensive clothing, a sort of half sort of waist length cavalry cloak, and is sporting possibly the most foppish hat you've ever seen in your life. It's purple. It's a giant beret with an incredibly large feather. There is sweat pouring down his face. Clearly, he is overheating massively given his poor choice of attire, and he looks a little bit hasty, to be honest. He's obviously not comfortable with the heat, and you'll see across his back he's got slung a lute. At his waist is some form of pistol, much smaller than those carried by Shooter, but with several barrels. And in his hand he is clutching a large wine skin and occasionally taking swigs. He's obviously not enjoying his time here, and you get the impression that he didn't particularly enjoy the sea voyage over either. But as much as he didn't enjoy the voyage, he's not quite as enthusiastic to be back on dry land as he thought he would be before he got here. There's dark glances being cast at the jungle, and he shifts sort of uncomfortably. He's obviously somewhat apprehensive as to what's going to come.
Sure. Great. Okay, you sound like a fine bunch of upstanding Imperial citizens, so that's great. Well, the guards here have directed you to go and speak to someone called Janice, which is somewhat confusing for you, because you were told to report by your employer. You were told to report to a Captain Stockert, and this Janice person doesn't sound like quite the same guy. So that's a slightly disconcerting thing for you. Yeah, what would you like to do?
Shooter would like to, as Naxine is making her ice things and dabbing her forehead, just get a little bit close.
Yeah.
And maybe sort of nudge her a bit.
And Maxine probably just reaches over with one palm. The magic now dismissed, but her palm still cold from the recent magic, and just places it on his forehead up here. I mean, Maxine is fairly tall for a female human, just under 6 foot anyway.
Thanks, wizard.
From between Shooter's legs, you can probably hear a, hey, can I get some of that down here as well, please?
Maxine just casts a fresh frostbite in her hand.
He's radiating.
It and,
it's not my fault.
I'm sure this
You're
is
getting too close
the only reason I'm here, but sure. We must go forward now. Otherwise, the warrior priest will have this all sorted before we even get involved.
With that hammer basher, doubt it. All right, let's see what they're at.
So sorry, who is it we've...
Demetrius is going to sigh and stroll after the group in a less than cheery fashion. He's looking a little bit downcast. He's also carrying a large sack of something that looks quite heavy, but none of you are sure what's inside.
Yeah, you're particularly distressed, Demetrius, because the sand is filling up your lovely riding boots with each step that you take.
Indeed.
Okay, well, you're free to move your tokens wherever you'd like.
Who is it we've been instructed to...
So your employer, Count Rosenblatt, asked you to report to a Captain Steckert, but the guard here has told you to go and speak to someone called Janus in this hut here.
Demetrius will approach that first guard and say to him, I say, my good man, I don't suppose there's anywhere where one might acquire a drink around here, is there? Ideally not that brackish water they serve in so many places.
As I said to the father here, you'll need to speak to Janus. He'll get you acquainted with the camp and give you your tasks. He'll get you settled.
Tasks? I see. So if I look around the camp, what do I see?
Yeah, as I say, it's a fairly squalid-looking settlement. It looks as if it's been kind of hastily constructed out of, jungle trees, but also possibly bits of the ship that they all came in on. And it's kind of in poor repair. There's guards sort of patrolling the perimeter, but not as many as you'd maybe expect. And the ones that are there seem tired or on edge, a bit jittery. Perhaps the camp is just a bit quieter, or this was kind of sold to you as quite a major outfit that had been really well funded by some of the bigwigs at the Imperial Court, and it doesn't look all that much to look at from what you can see.
Do you think, Bill, that we...
So when I look at Holt here...
Do you think, Bill, that we actually arrived at the right beach? This doesn't look like what we were expecting, does it?
I mean, it's wouldn't be the first time we've been sold a dream. But it'd be worth it. Otherwise, we'll have to make him pay when we get back. Right, where's this Janus fella?
Shooter, as he walks past here, just moves one of the halberdiers out of the way, because otherwise there's no space for him. Just picks him up.
I'm walking up, and sorry, as Bill asks a question. We were told he was this way, Mootlander.
Go on, bud.
Follow along.
So Demetrius, as he walks past that soldier, will sort of look him up and down, a little sort of hint of condescension on his face. I say, my good fellow, you've got dirt on your uniform. Yes. Anyway, and he'll trail after the ogre.
This guard looks as if he's going to respond to being picked up by the ogre and then insulted by Demetrius, but then eventually just kind of dies, and you gather that he's sort of too tired to really offer much of a response.
Is this the front of the hut?
That is the front of the hut. Yeah,
is the front of the hut.
Yeah, it's closed. but there's kind of some rough windows have been kind of knocked in the wooden planks, and sort of what looks like kind of bits of netting have been draped over them, presumably to keep out the clouds of insects that seem to be following you everywhere.
I'll look to the four of you if any of you have a preference for the welcome ceremony.
After you, warrior priest.
Demetrius will straighten himself up and look to perhaps take the lead. I think maybe you should let me do the talking, gentlemen. And lady, of course.
I look at this Outdorfian fop, and an eyebrow raises, and the moustache bristles slightly, and I take a step back. Sigmar, guide your path.
He looks like a slippery bugger, but he knows how to talk his way into some more money.
Well, I'll leave it to you. And
Thank you, my good
just
fellow.
sits down.
So Demetrius will walk up to the door and give it a quick knock. So 3 sharp
There's
knocks.
a firm enter.
Excellent. And Demetrius does. He steps his way inside. Greetings, Janus. Charming little outfit you've got going on here, isn't it? I'm informed that you're the man to speak to about a drink.
The man hunched over. There's a big table in the centre of the room covered in kind of papers, bits of map, various kind of bits of navigational equipment, and sort of leaning over it with his hands palms down on the table is a bald man in his probably in his 50s. He looks as haggard as everyone else and stressed, and he looks up at you, Demetrius, with this kind of disbelieving expression on his face, and you see him kind of rub his eyes as if he's trying to like check that you're not some sort of hallucination brought on by fever. Please tell me you're not the reinforcements from Outdoor.
Oh, we're more than that, my friend. More than that.
He just kind of sinks down into a chair behind his table and puts his head in his hands. Come in. Make yourself comfortable.
Come on, everybody, take a seat. You're looking less than enthusiastic about our arrival. We've travelled a very long way to be here. How may we be of service to you?
Well, he looks kind of more and more astounded as each of you files in. I suppose you make quite an alarming, quite a surprising group of people. It's probably particularly. Maybe particularly struck by the ogre.
When the ogre comes in.
I'm not sure Shooter would actually be able to fit his whole frame inside the door, Tom.
Head.
So possibly he just sticks his head in. Yeah, Janus gives a sort of little cry of alarm, but manages to regain his composure. I see. I see the Count did manage to find some muscle after all. That's good. Welcome.
I'm sorry, my good fellow. Do you know who we are?
Should I?
Should he?
Demetrius is going to shake his head and say, "Look, I've got a little present for you, my friend. Something that will turn that frown of yours upside down." He's going to reach into the bag he's been carrying with him. And he's going to pass you a book. I presume you can read, of course.
Yes, I can read. That's why they gave me the job of chief researcher on this expedition.
Yes, very good, very good. The book is entitled Demetrius' Raid in the Temple of Doom. My intrepid companions and I have braved the deserts of Gehemri. We fought the Tomb King, Cetra himself. We are, trust me, the finest mercenaries in all the land.
He looks at this book with a bemused expression and then places it on the table next to his maps. Well, I'll look forward to reading about that later. perhaps if you're ready, we'll get to business.
Absolutely, my good friend.
The pages are better than jungle leaves, put it that way.
Oh, well, we can always do more. he suddenly looks understanding and goes,
Demetrius will look genuinely hurt at that.
Well, I won't sugarcoat it for you all. We're in a bit of a bind here. Up until a few weeks ago, Captain Stecker was leading this outfit, but the fever took him not too long ago, and I've had to step in. There's no one else. I don't really feel qualified for this job. I was just meant to be the academic support, and now I find myself with a group of soldiers to command who are getting increasingly restless and scared. We're running low on numbers, and I'm not sure we can do what we came here to do if we don't get some help. So you've arrived just in time.
Did you say that Steckhart has succumbed to the fever? Is he still alive, or has he passed?
He's buried just out there, and he gestures to over his shoulder, kind of outside of the hut, along with quite a few others. But that's not the worst of it. As bad as the fever is, we've lost more people just to, well, I don't know what, some sort of madness. I've never seen anything like it.
And who has been the standing spiritual leader on this expedition thus far?
Well, Father, that would be old Utrecht. He's over in the chapel. I'm sure he'd be grateful to see a brother warrior priest.
A fellow Sigmarite, I assume?
Yes, of course, Father. We're all faithful Sigmarites here.
As all good men of the Empire should be.
I hope you're able to bring his blessing with you, Father. Utrecht assures us that our troubles are only temporary setbacks, but it's been hard to keep the faith these last few weeks.
You care to tell us more about these setbacks you describe? Can you be more specific?
Well, the first one, I suppose, is just our slow progress, finding any relics of the civilizations that supposedly dot this continent. The whole purpose of our expedition was to find irrefutable proof for the museum back in Altdorf, and until a few weeks ago we'd found nothing. Our forays into the jungle had been fruitless. Until we recently, our scouts returned word of some obelisks that seemed to point to a larger settlement not far away. So that's been really exciting and positive, but unfortunately we've had other problems. As I said, many of our guards have seemingly succumbed to some sort of disturbance, madness. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but they've just disappeared in the night, wandered off while they're supposed to be on shift. Presumably they've gone into the jungle, but they've not returned. I know many of them have complained of the jungle watching them and feeling like they were always being looked at by the trees. Obviously that's the madness talking, but whether it's just heat stroke or something more sinister, I don't know. I was hoping you'd be able to help with that.
Have you seen them wander
with the
off?
trees?
Go for it, Tim.
Sorry. Have you seen them wander off, or have they just gone missing?
No one's seen them go. It's just that when we've checked their posts in the morning, they're gone. No sign of them.
Could be a bear.
Well, in fairness, it's hardly the Grand Imperial Hotel in Altdorf.
Well, that may be, but we're the only civilization for miles as far as we know. So if they can't have gone anywhere better.
No sign of animal attack?
Not that we've seen. No sign of violence at all. And
Do we get more money if we bring them back?
Well, several of them have been missing for weeks out there in the jungle alone with no supplies. So I don't think you'll be bringing them back, but
But if we do,
if you do, yes.
What about
Sure, I'm sure that
if we bring pieces of them back? Can we get some sort of part rate?
oh yeah, 10 gold for the whole thing, 2 for every limb.
Come on, that's pretty fair.
That is, I mean, that's weeks. You said.
I'm not sure that this researcher has a huge supply of gold, Shooter. So perhaps we would negotiate that with the Count when we return.
Shooter immediately leaves the tent.
But,
yes. Janice would look at you, Nax, probably with some gratitude and say, yes, sir. I think you'd better take that up with the Count when you return. He's going to handle all of your payment. Honestly, I never expected to be in this situation, so I can't really take that on.
Well, if I could make one suggestion, I know that you are short of manpower, but perhaps the sentries outside, if they double up, I know that you wouldn't cover quite as much ground, but if they are wandering into the jungle one by one, perhaps going forth, it would be better to have them two per area. I know that they wouldn't cover quite as much ground as you'd like, but we could do with more information as to why they are wandering off. So at least if there was witnesses to one going off, then that would be helpful as a suggestion.
Thank you. That's a good idea. Yes, I think we'll implement that tomorrow night. Now that you're here, I'd hope to give most of the other guards a night off. They've been working double or even triple shifts, and they're exhausted. I was hoping if you're not too tired from your journey, you'd be able to assist with guard duty tonight to give the others a break. Would that be acceptable?
You'll see Demetrius's face fall at the mention of guard duty. I think you'll find we're far more specialist and valuable than mere encampment guards.
I think you'll find, as servants of our Lord and God Sigmar, we would rise to the challenge to protect an encampment of noble warriors.
And Demetrius will be sure to rest up first so that he is ready to do his shift when the time comes, while the rest of us be on call from the beginning.
Surely, for those who have survived an encounter with King Cetra, guard duty is merely a passing fancy.
Well, it's just that we were so well rested when we fought Cetra, obviously, and who knows what's out there? Dear, oh dear. But yes, of course, Demetrius Raid will always rise to the challenge. And the look he's going to give the warrior priest the second you look away from him is one of absolute
I've started
daggers.
leafing through that book. I flipped to the end and I'm just reading the last few pages just to see what's... Skip to the juicy part.
Yeah, and Demetrius will point out, I think you'll especially enjoy the about the author section I put in.
That's the first 100 pages, in fact.
Yeah, I imagine the actual story is like 10 pages, and the rest of it is just Demetrius is kind of ode to himself.
Pretty much, yeah. My favourite chapter is the one in which I saved the fair maid Nax from the Tomb King. Yes, he was about to be sacrificed. It was dreadful. It really was.
Even I didn't see that one coming.
Yes. Well, you wouldn't have done, would you? Yes.
Janice watches this exchange and just says, "I'll see to it that you all have bunks assigned to you in the huts around the camp. I'm sorry." He sort of grasps for a name. Your large friends probably won't fit in any of the bunks, but he's welcome to sleep anywhere he likes. I hope he won't be offended.
He's probably asleep right now.
Every time the word bunks is said, Demetrius winces.
Oh, he'd better not be asleep on the ground out there. I'm going to be picking bugs out of his asshole again for a week.
Until the night guard shift begins, you're free to roam the camp as you please. Please do get acquainted with your new surroundings. You're going to be here a while. but I would ask that you don't go into the jungle. Just don't move past the tree line if that's okay, and certainly never alone. And if you have time and energy, it might be that there's a couple of people around camp who could benefit from your assistance. I've mentioned old Utrecht already. Father, he looks at you, Dietrich. I'm sure he'd be grateful to meet you. I know he's been having a problem of a spiritual nature, and perhaps meeting a fellow priest would provide the comfort he needs. And there's also our resident wizard. He looks at you, Nax. Marius von Heipzig. He's been leading the research efforts into this settlement we believe we found in preparation for us going there whenever we're ready. I'm sure if you could assist him with his research, we could move that along a bit. Unfortunately, I've been distracted by managing the camp and making sure the guards don't mutiny.
And I take it you have a fresh source of water nearby.
Yes, there is a stream not too far into the jungle. We picked this camping spot primarily on that basis. Well, that and the idol, of course.
Right. And that's safe to replenish our water skins at?
If you leave them here, I'll have somebody do it. It's best if you don't go into the jungle yourself until you've been accompanied by someone who knows it. Even a short distance in there, it can be easy to get lost.
Right, and how are we doing for spices? Have we got any mint? Any sage, rosemary?
I'm
For God's
sorry,
sake,
Master
man. What
Halfling,
about basil?
I fear that our fare will seem quite tedious to you, but I'm sure after a few months of hardtack and biscuit on the ship, that'll be okay.
I think I've been eating hardtack. Yeah, you've never met a halfling, have you? Oh, it took me a week to figure out the fishing rig, but we did it.
Right, well, thank you for your time, Janice, and be assured that now that we have arrived, things will improve.
Well, thank you. I apologise for my reaction when you first entered. I am glad to see you. At this rate, any assistance is welcome. The guard outside will show you your quarters and replenish your water supply.
Very good. Demetrius, perhaps you would accompany me to see our wizardly friend Marius. Perhaps Bill.
Absolutely.
Bill, perhaps you'd
pleasure.
accompany our warrior priest friend over to see Utrecht, and we will rendezvous when we have a bit more information. I'll leave you, Bill, to decide if you want Shooter with you or not.
Yeah, I'll get bored otherwise. Shooter, we're talking to a priest.
And as you walk out, Shooter is indeed on the floor with his hat on his head, just snoring away.
Yeah, I'll kick you in the head as hard as I can, which is not very hard.
What?
Come on, we've got to go and chat to some god botherers.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, well, this guard here takes your canteens and starts moving off into the tree line to replenish your water. He gives you directions to the huts that house Marius, just here, close by. And then off at the far side of camp, you see a stone building that's quite unlike the flimsy wooden huts that seem to be everywhere else. And this keeps getting referred to as the chapel. So you assume that that's where you'll find Father Utrecht.
Okay.
So as Max and Demetrius are walking towards the wizard, and his fine abode, Demetrius will say to Nax, I say, my dear, thank you so much. I don't think I could bear another few minutes with that bombastic twit of a priest. He truly is the worst sort,
of
isn't
course, yes. I don't think you'll need to worry too much about him. Just let it all go past. You know very well from writing your book that some information is worth writing down and other information is completely worth disregarding. And his presence is almost certainly the latter. So yes, just do what you do, and that's all we need from you.
Yes, of course. Thank you. It's it's a pleasure to be working together again.
I enjoy every moment with you, Demetrius. You know that.
And Demetrius will sort of blush slightly and have another swig from his
Nax
wineskin.
just sort of just chuckles to herself because even though she has absolutely no interest in Demetrius as a person, she enjoys encouraging him in every way. And giving him a bit of separation from the warrior priest, even at Bill and Shooter's expense, is worth getting Demetrius in a better mood. So she's quite purposefully sent the warrior priest off with them, knowing that they won't care less who they accompany. Whereas Demetrius, he needs his moment without other people infringing. So
Demetrius will also offer to carry your bag. May I take that satchel for you?
Of course, nowhere near as heavy as your sack of books, of course. I'm so glad you brought that with you, Demetrius. I did wonder whether you'd have room for it on the ship. But yes, I'll have to refresh my knowledge a bit.
Well, everybody deserves a slice of light in their lives, especially in a place as grim as this, don't you think?
Perhaps the wizard, Marius, would also like a copy. And that way the sack that you're carrying will be less heavier by the moment.
Yes, well, it's true. I mean, my book is all the rage in Altdorf and Null, and even Leo von Leibowitz is quite the fan.
I heard that as well, from a different source, so you must be right, yes.
Oh. Demetrius is going to inflate. You get the feeling his head may not fit through the door of the wizard's...
Well, before we get to the book signing, we'll pan south to the stone, unusual stone-looking building, which is actually Dietrich and Bill and Shooter. As you approach it, you realise that bits of it are kind of it's ruined. It's open to the sky in places, but clearly it's so hot here that's not been seen as a deal breaker, and it's kind of clearly not something that has been constructed by members of the expedition. You can tell that just at a glance. It seems to be made of kind of massive stone blocks that have been kind of curiously carved and then set on top of each other. And it seems kind of much older than any of the other structures around the camp. Yeah, what do you do?
Well, as we're walking along, I'll kind of slow down or speed up to match the pace of the ogre. And one thing that I have ascertained in my limited time with you is that you strike me as a trustworthy source of information, my good fellow.
Yep, that's me and Bill. Information, mercenary. Yes, you.
No one more trustworthy in the Empire.
Exactly.
As Bill pipes up, I'll look down and then I'll unsubtly clutch my purse, like my coin pouch that's hanging from my belt, just a bit tighter.
I see. Because I'm a halfling, I'm a thief, am I?
There's no response, but the face says yes.
Huh. I'm a halfling and a thief. Totally different.
So, tell me, your rather flamboyant companion, did you really go to Nakahara?
Yes.
And did you really fight a tomb king?
I don't know whether he was a king, but he was from a tomb. So, yeah, that is correct.
He was pretty dead and pretty pissed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the fun thing with Reed's books. They're all about 30% true. And you have to work out which bits.
Not enough pictures for me, if I'm honest.
Like I actively I stop in I just stop in the middle of the road, and through the disbelief, like the sheer disbelief of what you're saying, like you've actually come toe to toe with. I mean, if an ogre's like, oh, he might not be dead,
He was dead at one point. Am I right?
Yeah.
A tiny fist bump.
I mean, I've not heard of. I've never experienced these fabled tomb kings, but I have had my run-ins in the previous life with Sylvanian undead. So
Sylvanian families.
Yeah. So yeah, I give her. There's a look of a genuine impressedness on my face.
He weren't no match for me and Bill and the rest of them.
Well, it seems that I'm in blessed company then. Right. Clearly they've not been keeping up with their home maintenance. Let's see what this Utrecht has to say for himself.
So, as you enter this ruined building, Dietrich, the first thing that dominates your vision is a massive, grotesque statue of what seems to be a giant toad. And you're kind of taken aback. This toad is kind of sitting cross-legged and serene. It's a pretty monstrous sight, really, carved of solid stone, clearly as ancient as the building around it. And your initial reaction is one of rage. I imagine that this is in a chapel of Holy Sigmar. There's this monstrosity taking centre stage, but then you kind of hear this whispering sound behind it, and you sort of peek around the statue, and against the far wall there is a smaller altar set that's clearly been constructed, and on top of that is a bronze hammer. Kneeling at this altar is an old man in rusted plate armor, and he's fervently kind of praying. That's the whispering you can hear. You manage to catch some of the words as you enter. He's saying, "Lord Sigmar, cleanse this land of idolatry. Give your servant the strength to smash the false gods that infest it. Almighty Heldenhammer, let today be the day." And he's just kind of praying that over and over again, or some variation thereof.
It would seem that this day your prayers are answered, Brother Utrecht.
The old man kind of whirls around and, with a little bit of stiffness, manages to get to his feet, kind of supporting himself with the altar that he's been praying to. He turns to face you and, could it be? Are you also of the order?
Sigmar's blessing upon you. And I'll place a hand on each shoulder and sort of like do a warrior's like forehead bump.
Yeah. He sort of receives the embrace, and then, almost sort of forgetting himself and his priestly dignity, he kind of throws his arms around you and pulls you in for a hug, and then seems to kind of remember what he's doing. And
I do not know what to do in the face of affection. I stiffen slightly, and as he releases me, to kind of dispel that uncomfortableness that I now have. Is this an artwork piece of your own? You appear to have sculpted Sigmar when he was having Sigmar before he got swole.
He looks aghast at the very thought of connecting this abominable idol with Holy Sigmar, and he says, "No, of course, this monstrosity was here when I arrived. I have been trying ever since to destroy it, of course, and to rededicate this place to our Lord, but it seems impervious to my best efforts, and so far my entreaties to Lord Sigmar to send it tumbling to the ground have gone unanswered. But clearly he has sent you to help. He truly works in mysterious ways.
What, pray tell, is it? It appears to be a monstrous frog.
And you hear from the background, is it worth anything?
He, for the first time, he kind of looks over your shoulder, Dietrich, to see Shooter sticking his head through the door. And by the hammer, is he?
Don't worry. The ogre is with us. He won't eat you.
As long as you give me this, it looks like crystal.
It's just stone, but
oh, okay.
But clearly warded by
crystal stone.
Perhaps I've not been able to destroy it. Perhaps it's shielded by whatever dark god it is dedicated to. Clearly it was set up by the heathen barbarians that dwelt here long ago. No person of the Empire would create such a thing.
So it's old. Antique, you would say?
Anyone who wants to can roll me a history check. Or religion.
Yeah, I will.
Bam.
How big is it, by the way?
It is probably 8 feet tall.
Whoa.
And probably 6 feet wide. It's big. Big. Quite imposing.
It is shooter-sized.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Okay. You guys did not read up on your history before you left the boat.
You could have just said not read.
So it's clearly very old. It doesn't take a genius to work that out. And none of you, well, I don't know how kind of religious any of you are, but none of you have ever seen anything like this in any temple in the Empire that you've ever been in. And you've never heard of any people, even like up north where they worship weird stuff. You've never heard of anyone worshipping frogs. So, that bit baffling.
So, you don't mind if I take this?
Well, stay your hand, my large companion. We cannot verify that it is not cursed by the dark gods. It might course with their power, and it would not do you
cursed,
well.
The price goes up, my friend.
There's an eye twitch.
He's right. You'd be amazed just how much you can sell stuff in Norska for. Not that we ever do that, of course.
No.
No.
I imagine there's two glaring priests of Sigmar.
Yeah. Uche sort of coughs to break the uncomfortable silence and then points to a warhammer that is leaning up against one of the walls of the building. And you can see that its head is kind of been snapped clean off the shaft of the hammer. Well, cursed or not, I cannot say, but clearly it is impervious to my strikes. If you can find some way to nullify its protection, I'm not sure exactly what is going on, but...
Not much impervious to your strikes, is there, Shooter?
No, exactly.
Do you want to give it a crack?
I would, but I can't get through the door.
You make a valid point.
I can shoot it from here, wait. And he leads back. Shoot.
I'm already like instinctively in a dodge roll.
Yeah, the priest is kind of backing out of the way with alarm and backing up against the wall.
You see his head leave, and then just two guns come through the door.
I'm stood. I'm gawping. He doesn't mean to. What?
3, 2, and then I'll have a shot.
Go for it.
Yes. 21.
Okay. Are you firing both of your pistols?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
21 and.
Hang on. Are these ogre-sized pistols?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're effectively a human blunderbuss.
Yeah.
In each hand.
Or
Yeah.
in each hand. Yeah.
So,
A natural 20 and a 21.
okay, so your aim, shooter, is surprisingly good given your track record.
Surprisingly.
I mean, it's 8 feet tall and it doesn't move.
Yeah, which is shooter's ideal target.
This is it.
In the
It's my moment.
confined space of this chapel, there is a deafening. Dietrich is like, wait, what? And the chapel kind of fills with smoke and gunpowder smell. There's this deafening crash that sets all of your ears ringing, and then what I imagine is like a hail of small metal like nails and coins and whatever shooter loads his pistols with, hobnails, rockets towards this idol of a toad, and you're expecting when the dust clears, you're expecting it to sort of be completely destroyed, turned to powder, but the tide of sort of small metal objects kind of freezes a few inches away from the statue, as if they've been caught somehow, and then just drops with a metallic tinkling onto the floor.
And as the smoke sort of clears, his head pops through again. Did it work? Okay.
Is everyone still alive?
Is that one of my teaspoons?
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, sorry.
Shooter.
You
Yeah,
just gestures hopelessly to it, and you see what I mean.
Oh, worth a lot then. All right, I'll try later. But this is mine, right? This is mine to have, yeah? Ours. He gestures to Bill.
You are welcome to it if you can remove it from this place. Cast it into the sea for all I care.
All right, you're a good boy.
Maybe we should have a word with the wizard.
Hmm.
She might know what to do.
Failing that, I can, on morning's light, when I beseech Sigmar for his aid, I can perhaps find a solution to whatever is cursing this effigy.
Oh, your prayers will be most valued, brother. My own have felt hollow and unanswered for so long.
I nod, and it would do you best to cover up the tomes, lest they are stained by the gunpowder and smoke in the air.
Yes, of course.
And the shooters in the background.
Before we go, what do you know of this supposed fever that has beset the camp? When did it start? How quickly was the onset? Have you ascertained any patterns or any reasonings for who is or is not affected?
He'll shake his head kind of sadly and say, well, it seems to be mostly the guards rather than the support staff or the researchers. Those who are most exposed to the jungle, I suppose. It has an unsettling effect on the men, particularly when they're left to watch it at night. I'm not sure exactly what happens, but, well, you'll get it after you've been here a few days. It does start to feel like it's watching you somehow. Like we're not welcome here. I know these forts are not, are not worthy of a warrior priest, but you'll understand what I mean soon enough.
Clearly you have been away from the gleaming spires of our Lord's sanctuary for too long, but worry not. We will find a solution to what ails you.
Oh, thank you, brother. And he sort of takes your hand and kind of wrings it in his two emaciated elderly hands.
And my palms will glow, and I'll cast guidance on him.
Oh. Lovely.
for the minute or so that he's going to need to tidy everything up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will pan over to Demetrius and Naxine. As you enter the hut of Marius von Heipzig, the resident wizard of the expedition, you see a cramped mess of stacked books and papers, illuminated by what you can only describe as kind of little floating balls of light. They seem to be kind of gently floating up and down, bouncing off the walls sluggishly, just kind of lazily drifting about. And there seems to be maybe a dozen of them, and they're just giving off like a soft light so that the hut is kind of dimly illuminated. It's kind of just enough light to see how much of a mess there is, but not really enough to do much about the mess. And kind of in the midst of this carnage is a man with a long black goatee, and he's dressed in a long set of white and blue robes. Nax, possibly you would recognise them as the robes of the Light Order, of one of the colleges of magic based in Altdorf. And he's you can see a sort of staff leaned up against one wall with a serpent, a bronze serpent on the top. So confirming your suspicion that this is a member of the White Order. And yeah, he seems to be kind of frantically searching for something, and he's kind of overturning one stack of books, rooting through them, kind of throwing them over his shoulder, muttering under his breath. Seems to be in a state of agitation.
Before we went over the threshold, Nax would have probably whispered to Demetrius something about, wizards can be rather temperamental, and if you wouldn't mind, being rather praising of the wizard's efforts thus far, rather than, being discouraging. And she would probably also say to Demetrius that she'd be happy for him to take the lead and to only really mention her wizardly knowledge if it was necessary, and that she'll pick up on anything after he's made the initial inquiries, and then she'd just be ready to back Demetrius up when needed.
Of course, I could be incredibly discreet. I'm a man of tact and diplomacy. You're well aware, my dear, of course. As we approach the threshold, then once again, Demetrius will knock respectfully.
Yep, he'll be ushered in, and you see the scene I've described.
So Demetrius will open the door. Indeed, yep, and say to the gentleman, "Excuse me, my good sir, may we please trouble you for a moment or two of your time?"
Well, I'm quite, without looking up, the wizard just kind of says, "I'm really quite busy just now. Is there something I can help you with?"
Indeed, absolutely, and I'm sure you're terribly busy and terribly important. Yes, but we've been sent here to help support the expedition in achieving its goals, and we wondered if we might pick your incredible brains as to how we may best achieve this. We understand there's been some troublesome goings on of late, if you get my drift.
He looks up at that and fresh meat. Well, welcome. Welcome to Lustria. Yes, we've had our share of problems, but if you're talking about the disappearances, I'm afraid I don't have time to talk about that. That's really Janice's problem. I'm just here to help us find Xanatech and work out what we do when we get there.
Well, that of course is the thing, finding Xanatech.
Good. So he's briefed you?
Absolutely. Has he not, Nax, my dear?
Yes, he barely mentioned anything else, in fact. Yes, and what have your celestial castings been able to reveal about the path to take towards the fabled place that you speak of?
Well, come in. And he ushers you over the threshold and brings you to a desk that is, you didn't actually notice at first because it's so piled over with with reference material, and on it you can see a curious set of rubbings, like charcoal rubbings that have been taken of some sort of pattern, and he gestures to that, and there's some reference books, very old reference books, scattered around it as if he's been working on it. And he gestures to those and says, well, our scouts discovered these obelisks and the plaques that these rubbings represent just a week or so ago. They're the first clue we've had really to a larger settlement being nearby, and from what we can tell, that settlement is called Zanutek. That's what we came here to find, I'm sure of it. It's definitive proof that advanced civilization dwelt on this continent long before the time of man, perhaps even before the time of Sigmar. And we know so little about this language, whatever it is. It's been a bit of a struggle to translate the rest of the rubbings. If you can lend any assistance with that, then that would be much appreciated. He looks somewhat doubtfully at the two of you, as if he's not quite sure what your what expertise you're going to bring to this task. Or if that seems a little far-fetched, then perhaps you could search in this mess for some mention of this city, Zanutek. All sorts of fanciful tales have been written over the years of this continent, and it's just possible that some of them may have mentioned it, even in passing. Any clue could be helpful.
I'm sure. My colleagues would be more than happy to help me in researching through these books of yours. It's a fine collection, done well. Would I be correct in assuming that, what with all this keeping you very busy, that you haven't really managed to offer much in the way of your light magic to assist in the further exploration around this obelisk, the further journey into the jungle? Have you accompanied them at all, or is this second-hand reports that you've been receiving?
He looks a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not much of a field operative, really. More of a delicate constitution, you understand. The scouts have been bringing me back what they can, but this is the first major break we've had.
And the carvings that you've been working on for translation, how would you say your pronunciation is of these words? I know that the language is unfamiliar, but would you be able to enunciate these carvings into verbal form? That's sort of my speciality. And Demetrius here, master with the pen. I'm more of a master with the sounds.
As far as I know, no one is able to speak this language. No one has been for millennia. We only have a very dim grasp of what concepts they're attempting to represent, or even how the base language works grammatically, if it is indeed a language that in any form that we would recognise. I mean, you are welcome to take a look at the carvings and the reference material and see what you can do with it.
I shall, yes. Demetrius, did you have any thoughts on how Marius here might be able to assist us any further?
Demetrius is going to frown and say, yes, I have, of course, many thoughts. But perhaps you and I should do as he requests and have a little search and see if we can find anything additional amongst this mischievous of a room. And Demetrius will shudder slightly at the untidy, disorganized state of it. It may well be that there is something here that is written that I may be able to help with.
Yes, good idea. In fact, speaking of written form, perhaps you could show Marius the artifact that you brought with us on this journey while I begin, and maybe. Yes, and I'll sort of swiftly move aside to start looking through things while Demetrius keeps Marius busy.
Yes, indeed, Marius, my friend, you're in for a treat. I understand that this port, I suppose, of yours is bereft of most of life's pleasures. Would I be correct?
I don't quite follow you. What do you mean?
Well, it appears that there's nothing to do around here. There's no taverns, no inns, no, other establishments that might keep an intellectual gentleman such as yourself entertained. Well, I have a treat for you, sir. And Demetrius is going to take one of his books out, and he's going to hand it to the wizard. I understand that you're a man who likes to read, and as a man who likes to read, I think you're very much going to enjoy this. It's all the rage in Altdorf and Null, don't you know?
Nux is furiously searching through the books and the papers, really quickly trying to investigate and see what she can find in the time that she's been afforded to do so without an overbearing onlooker.
Sure. So as Marius is ably distracted by Demetrius, are you focusing on going through the chaos or on the robbings?
The chaos, I think, is where Nux wants to start, because he seemed fairly happy for us to look through the carvings at any point, but the chaos,
sure.
he didn't seem to want to direct us to. So Naxine's definitely using the opportunity while Demetrius has got him engaged to look at the part that he wasn't pointing us towards.
Okay. Go ahead and give me an investigation check then, please.
Of course. That would be a 19.
Very good. Okay, so the books and scrolls and manuscripts that are piled all over this room, they really range from kind of really quite dry academic treatises, I'm not sure how you say that word, to kind of a few scribbled notes that have basically been found in a bottle on a beach somewhere, to kind of like the journal of some condemned heretic or madman that's prescribed across half the empire, but tells of being shipwrecked on the Lustrian coast and all of that kind of stuff. So the real range from the really academic and serious to the kind of really dubious in terms of integrity. But it seems like Marius has just gathered it all together in hopes of finding something that's useful. And you manage to, after a little bit of reading round, you can hear in the background Demetrius kind of taking Marius through his book page by page and pointing out particularly interesting paragraphs that he'll want to pay attention to. And you try and shut that noise out, and you manage to find a tiny little book in black leather that seems to contain a reference to Danatek. It's quite a it's quite a brief. It doesn't give you much detail, but it just describes it as a great and powerful temple city, one of the most prosperous in Lustria, and the only other reference you can find to Danatek is that some great disaster befell the city at some point in its history, and that since that point the nature of the disaster is murky, but after that point kind of all references to it cease. It's like it's just disappeared off the map, and you can't find anything more recent than this scribbled reference in a madman's journal, basically.
Right, so it's written common, a book by someone who claims to have witnessed it.
Not witnessed it. It seems to be purporting to be a kind of academic paper, but not one that's been taken seriously by anyone.
Sure.
It's not kind of a published work. It seems to have been, some oddball kind of publishing his own research or, but not something that would have ever seen the light of the Imperial University's library, probably.
Yeah, sure. No worries, thank you. And probably Naxine would, once she'd taken that in, she'd probably wander back towards Demetrius and say, "Oh, yes, I see you've got to the good part where you scale that tomb and leapfrog over the 3 skeletons and then carve the different shapes of Demetrius Raid into their chest cavities. Very good. One of my favourite parts."
Indeed, well, every master swordsman needs a signature,
Yes, you certainly left more than just that behind when you gave them your acquaintance. Marius, interesting collection here, and the carvings. Would you mind if we took them away and I studied them while I was just on watch tonight? It would be rather useful if I could study them in the moonlight. I'm sure that you yourself have enjoyed doing so whenever you've had a moment on the outside air.
Actually, are you dressed as in an outfit that Marius would recognise as a wizardly outfit?
I don't think so. No.
Not particularly? Okay.
No. I mean, wizardly robe, but
Sure.
other than that, probably
But not any
so
particular
much.
order or anything?
No. Mainly because Maxine lost track of what order she represented and has only got really her skills to go on. So it wouldn't be overly obvious to anyone looking at.
Fair enough.
So, but he could assume however he likes.
Well, I'm not sure. The elements are not exactly. The paper is fragile, and I fear the elements are hardly conducive to preserving such important information. If it were to rain, or even just the mists that we get rolling into the sea sometimes, they could be ruined.
Of course, no, that's understandable. No problem.
But if you are interested and really want to help, you're welcome to come and look at them any time. I mean, stay as long as you like. I could use the help. Sigmar knows.
Very well. And in terms of any artifacts or anything, have you found anything that might prove useful in the jungle? Any magical objects? Or I'm sure one of my colleagues would be particularly interested if there's anything golden or shiny.
I'm afraid not. Other than the toad idol that you may have seen in the chapel, and these
probably Maxine just sort of
we...
ducks quite rapidly as there's this sound of two shots in the background. Yes. Well, we'll come back to that point maybe. Perhaps Demetrius, did you have anything else that you needed to speak to Marius about? We should see what that was.
Yeah. So Demetrius is going to sort of startle like a rabbit in the headlights at the sound of these gunshots in the background before composing himself and saying, yes, well, so I do believe, my good friend, that given the sounds of these gunshots and some terrible fray that must be happening, that perhaps speed is of the essence. Are you sure that it's not all right if we take these papers away? I'm concerned here that the longer we wait, the more danger the encampment's in, and we do promise to take exceptionally good care of these items for you. After all, we made it all the way to Henry and back, did we not?
I'll tell you what, give me a persuasion check. It's going to be quite a hard one, I think, because he doesn't know you from Adam, and you don't look like the kind of guy who takes good care of manuscripts.
I mean, I don't know what you mean. I rolled a 2, but I still got more than 10.
He's going to sort of move protectively in front of the rubbings and say, no, these are our only lead. I cannot risk them. But as I say, you're welcome to stay, and if you wish to, if you're not on guard duty tonight, if you wish to come back and peruse them then, you're most welcome to do so. But just please be careful.
The guard that made the carving,
I'm having a thought.
Is he somewhere in the camp, perhaps? He brought them to you.
Yes, I believe so. I'm not sure exactly where he is now, but yes, well. Hans, his name was, I believe.
We'll ask around for Hans, no problem. Thank you for your time, and you'll know where to find us if you need to tell us anything more about what you find.
Thank you. A pleasure to meet you both. Your names?
Maxine. Demetrius, she says, pointing at Demetrius.
Yes, I know his. he made that quite clear.
I'm glad.
Yes, it was a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Okay, so you guys are running over to the chapel following the sound of shooters' gunshots, are you?
Yeah. As we go, Demetrius is going to say to Nax, I've had a brainwave, my dear. What if we get that little scoundrel Bill to steal the papers? He's the light-fingered sort. If you get my drift.
I think it's a splendid idea, Demetrius. I'm not entirely sure we're going to need them, if I'm honest, because I don't really think that anything on those carvings is going to be overly useful. But I'm more than happy to give Bill a bit of exercise.
Well, you know what they say: practice maketh the
And
man,
halfway.
and all that.
I agree. Yes, it's a common phrase. Yes, let's see what shooters have the need to shoot at, because I'm wondering whether those bullets might have been useful elsewhere. But let's see what caused him such furore.
So you guys run into the chapel to see probably everyone kind of sheltering against the walls. As you open the door, there's a wave of acrid-smelling fog that rolls out, and I guess you'd sort of barge past Shooter, wouldn't you, on your way, because he would be in the door.
You might see him sort of bent over, and even though he does have a long coat, he might be showing a bit too much.
Yeah. Okay. So you enter the chapel and kind of are confronted by this enormous toad-like idol, an elderly warrior priest who's kind of it seems to be hiding behind Dietrich, and then Bill also in a corner of the room looking. How does Bill look with this whole proceeding?
I think he's incredibly used to this kind of thing happening, so he's covered his ears ahead of time, and he's just kind of nonchalantly smoking, waiting for everyone else to calm down a bit.
Picking up the cutlery from the...
Yeah, exactly, like picking out
the fire.
It's ruined!
Yeah, you hold up your teaspoon, Bill, and it's got a horrible bend in it.
And Shooter doesn't say sorry, but his face kind of says...
Oh, you two. Nax, we got a cool, weird magic statue.
Yeah, he says it's ours. We can sell it.
Great. Yes, that's exactly what we asked, whether there was anything like that. The wizard over there, Marius, pointed it right to this statue, so I'm glad that you found it. Did it attack you? You needed to defend yourself?
No, fine gentleman said we could have it, and I tried to shoot it.
Something about it being, just not holy enough for fancy hammer place, so...
Its mere presence besmirches the sanctity of this place as a site of worship to our Lord.
I just said that.
Yeah, besmirches, yeah.
Naxine, is it, yes?
Yes.
It might behoove us for you to investigate this, but I would strongly recommend caution. It may well be influenced by powers of the dark gods.
I think Naxine's probably already starting a detect magic ritual from a safe distance of a few feet away from the statue, but just beginning to do the castings. She doesn't have any issue with showing magic casting in the face of this Utrecht. Sort of everything she wouldn't give away in front of the wizard, she's more than happy to just weave a bit of magic in front of this one in order to investigate the statue with a bit more arcana.
The elderly warrior priest looks as if he's kind of slowly swelling with rage as he watches you, presumably kind of prepare some sort of magical. I mean, it's be obvious to him that it's whatever you're doing is not anything a devout Sigmarite should be doing. So
I look over to Utrecht and worry not. If she shows any signs of demonic influence, we will smite her where she stands. Carry on, wizard.
she
but remember, if it is cursed, don't take the whole curse away, because we don't want the value to plummet.
Sure you
Suchek just harumphs and stalks out of the chapel.
I think Bill's just going to start like picking up bits of the shrapnel and just chucking it at the statue, and like just to watch it stop in the air and like, whoa, cool.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm casting. I'm concentrating for 10 minutes. So
Sure. Well, after your kind of preparations are complete and your ritual takes effect, you sense an aura of what in D&D terms we would call abjuration magic around this statue. Trying to think if it be associated with a particular wind magic.
Demonology!
Yes, black magic of the worst kind. Probably what it doesn't seem to be, Nax would know this, I guess. It doesn't seem to be particularly associated with any one wind of magic, kind of in the way that most human spellcasters, for example, specialise in a particular utilise a particular wind of magic. So Marius, for example, focuses on the wind phase, and very few mortal spellcasters can tap into more than one with any great chance of success. But this feels like pure magic, not kind of chaotic necessarily, but certainly something older and more primal than anything you'd have encountered amongst your contemporaries.
Sure.
It sends, probably as a wizard, it sends a little bit of a thrill down your spine, the sort of raw power of it, but also it's a little bit unsettling to have magic in such a raw, uncontrolled form, maybe. Or it's just very different to what you might learn in the Empire.
Yeah, wouldn't be getting any sort of sense of threat from the statue though, from this initial.
No, not particularly. I mean, it seems that whatever enchantments are around it are purely protective.
That's fine. And probably Nax would sweep the whole room a little bit with that detect magic, just to see if there was anything else lying around of interest. She's already fairly aware that her colleagues don't have a lot of magical capabilities, Demetrius excluded. Doesn't really know the warrior priest overly well, but she'd probably just use this opportunity just to get a sense of the bearings of what was already there, and probably do a little bit of a wander around the immediate vicinity of the camp as well, just while this casting was up.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you wouldn't pick up much other than Marius, as you expect, kind of pings on your radar and a few things in his hut, minor kind of enchantments and such like that. But and the holy objects in the chapel, so that the bronze hammer, not necessarily magical, but you're able, with your sort of mage sight, you're able to kind of see that they have been blessed. So they sort of give off a faint kind of aura.
How fare you, child? Are you possessed of an inhumane bloodlust of all of a sudden?
Is that to Nax?
Yes.
And she'll probably just end the casting around the time that he asks this, and just says, "I'm quite in control. Don't worry. I met somebody who had a similar distrust of my abilities some time ago, I believe, and they were able to see that control is something that my particular brand of wizardry is something that is quite strong. You needn't worry."
Used it to control his mind, didn't you? I remember.
Bill, no, that was someone else actually, but no. Yeah, we'll move on past that. But no, there is nothing to be concerned of here, Dietrich. But you have a little bit of magical knowledge yourself. It's very, very different to mine, of course. But tell me a little bit about yourself. We don't know each other overly well, and I'm ashamed to say that I spent a lot of the voyage feeling a bit queasy. But do tell me some more about your beliefs. Was I wrong to cast my magic in the presence of your colleague there? I see that you made him a little bit uneasy.
There are many among the Order of Sigmarites who would outright shun the application of arcane magics, for it tempts the thrills of chaos all too often. And there is only one resolution to one who has been tempted by the dark gods, and that is a swift and just and righteous end. Hopefully, through the flathead of a hammer of Sigmar. But, in my time on the battle lines, fighting in the armies of the Reichland, I have come to appreciate controlled doses of magic. I will not protest that there is use for it. I would rather, if you were a devout of our Lord, but we all have our purposes in his grand plans. I cannot speak for Utrecht. He is somewhat older than I. Perhaps so are his beliefs and his teachings. But I've learned from my short time in Altdorf that you could barely go 3 paces without bumping into some wizard or another from those blasted colleges. So I have decided to make my peace with those of your profession.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
But do not take that as an indication that I will pass on my duties to Sigmar should you fall. Corruption must be smote upon first notice. I do not mean that as a threat. I mean that as a promise.
I can promise you that Shooter and Bill will step in and assist you with that should there be any danger. They are very efficient.
Marvelous.
And,
I must ask, do you find that anything goes missing from your inventory?
Never. No, never. No, it's always very nearby.
This group is a peculiarity, to be sure.
And speaking of which, when you were speaking with Utrecht, did you sense any mistrust in him? Was there anything that he was saying that caused you any concern? I have to say that with Janus, he just seemed terrified, and Marius seemed oblivious. There didn't seem to be much that we could gain in terms of a larger plot. It just seems that they're all a little bit out of their depth. What were your feelings so far?
To walk in Sigmar's light is, by its very purpose, to be blinded by his glory, and it would seem that Utrecht has been blind for some considerable time. Heavy are the burdens of a priest of Sigmar, and it seems that the poor man is at his wit's end through exhaustion. He has been too far from civilized lands for too long.
Indeed, and would you suggest that we take them up on their offer of being on watch tonight so that they can get some much-needed rest? It might give us the opportunity to explore at our own pace.
I feel that would be prudent, if not for the military application of having guards who are quite positively losing their minds, being our only bastion of security from whatever may lurk in the jungles beyond. It would be good to shine Sigmar's light on whatever foul curse haunts this place, thus so we might burn it out with righteous fury.
Yes.
Yes, I believe we should be on guard. If there are any of these camps guards also joining us on the duty, I've heard that some of them have quite literally wandered off into the wilderness. Perhaps we might fashion some rope leashes to tie around their waists, pin them in spots. We'll see what happens to any fanciful curse that may bestow itself upon their fragile little minds when they can't move more than 10 foot away from whatever post they're attached to.
It might be a little extreme, but yes, it's worth throwing into the suggestion pot.
It worked in Sylvania. my dear friend, it will work here.
Very well.
You can see as well while they're having this, shooters desperately trying to keep up with the intellectual chat that they've got. And it's just, as one talks, he looks over there. One talks, he looks over there, and then at the end, when there's a pause, he just goes, "So you sorted the statue?"
Oh yes, shooter, it's all yours.
Yes. All right. And he'll squeeze through the door and try and take it because he's assumed that you've done it.
Unfortunately, Shooter, your hands seem to be unable to actually touch the statue. They sort of bounce off an invisible wall that's just a few inches away from it. Very frustrating.
It is.
I think
Don't worry, it won't cause him any harm, Bill.
I'll use the ruckus and the distraction in the chat, and just see if there's maybe a small but shiny trinket of this fancy priest who thinks he's all that, and just quietly see if I can remove it from his person. If you're right with that, Dan.
My attention is elsewhere. Wait, hang on. Utrick, right?
Oh, you mean his fancy priest? Sorry, I was like...
Oh,
which
not
fancy priest?
well. I mean, if there's anything that looks valuable enough, but I don't want that getting pinned on us. Whereas this guy, I've had enough of his lip.
And Maxine meant what she said by it stays nearby. It might be out of Dietrich's possession, but it would be in Bill's possession.
There you go. We've still got it.
Nearby.
It's part of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll leave it up to Dan to say whether he thinks...
go nuts.
Sleight of hand, is it?
Yeah, it would be. Oh boy,
28.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a passive 17. I ain't stopping that.
You remove his plate armor somehow.
Have you got like a little ring or a necklace or anything like that?
Well, I'm just getting given your size, let's say it's like I'm warrior priest of Sigmar from the waist up, right? But like, yeah, you definitely notice that I'm wearing like that flouncy, like double quilted, styly Empire uniform from like the waist down. I guess there would be perhaps like on my belt, like just off, like behind on the back of my hip, there would be a pinned medal. I'm trying to find what that might be. There was a pinned medal, yes.
Yes.
Unpinned medal.
But yes, it looks somewhat old. Well, it looks somewhat old, and whilst it in itself is tarnished, it looks like it's been it looks like the Seagard has done his best to keep it polished, but where it's like warfare has had other ideas.
Okay, I'll just
It's like it's like a little skull, perhaps with like with a motif of like a laurel with a star
very nice
in the middle.
Yeah, so I'll just quietly pin that to my dirty old apron and carry on with my day.
As you're pilfering this medal, Bill, you happen to look outside the door of the chapel, and you can see that night is coming on with alarming rapidity. It seems that it gets dark quickly around here, and you can kind of see and maybe hear as well the sounds of the night watch getting ready to go on, and maybe a few people kind of retiring to their bunks for the evening. It seems as if the camp is kind of settling down to sleep, so you probably have not much time before you'd be expected on guard duty. If there's any last things you wanted to do, you might have quickly have time, but it's sort of getting on.
Would Nax be able to notice whether these guards were being posted in twos or in ones?
Yeah, if you kind of stepped outside of the chapel, Nax, you'd look around and kind of see that because of as Janice said, because of your arrival, he's given many of the guards the night off to catch on some sleep. So there aren't enough on duty to be doubled up tonight. I think he said that tomorrow night, once more people are rested, he'll take you up on that suggestion.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, it seems like they are kind of taking up positions maybe between the buildings, or maybe 20, 30 feet away from each other, forming a kind of loose cordon around the camp at the tree line.
Is there anything, for my crazy plan, is there anything that we could hammer into the ground to attach these guards to?
If you can convince guards to be roped to the ground, then you can just hammer a peg in, I suppose, a stake.
Yeah.
They might get a bit nervous if they see a warrior priest approaching with a stake. But you can give it a go.
Well, worry not, it's for your own good. I'll do what I can to gather. Well, as night's falling, I'll take a chance. I'll take a moment to gather the guards that are going to be on guard duty, so I can give them Sigmar's blessings.
Sure.
And then I'll lay out my master plan of pegging everyone to the ground.
Okay.
Just on the off chance that the fever takes them and they decide to wander off, they'll only get 10 feet away from where they should be.
Okay. So Dietrich is busy restraining all the guards. What's everyone else doing as a warm fog begins to drift into the camp, and night settles in earnest?
Demetrius is going to express a slight concern to Bill over the Sigmarites' enthusiasm for pegging, and comment that in fact a lot of these religious types are very similar. It seems to be a theme. I don't think he's going to be trying to rope us to posts this evening, do you? It seems a bit peculiar.
Is Demetrius joining the guard patrol, or are you retiring to your bunk?
Demetrius will probably look to Nax for some form of guidance here. I'm saying Nax, I'm a bit perplexed by this all. It's been a very long voyage. I'm very tired.
Absolutely.
But our new priestly friend
you should retire imminently to acquire the most comfortable bunk. We need you fully rested, Demetrius. So I think that tonight would be a good opportunity for you to recharge, re-establish your energy, and in the morning you'll be able to give us your full attention. So yes, you should establish the most comfortable position while we look after things tonight.
Indeed. I feel that tomorrow heroism will beckon once again. Excellent. And Demetrius will strut off towards the bunk room, I suppose.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll put you over here then, Demetrius. Could be one of the bunk houses.
And I think Nax will probably wander over, and before whatever Nax decides to do for the night shift, we'll ritually cast an alarm on the door to protect Demetrius should anything happen in the night.
Okay, sure.
Oh,
you're welcome.
No problem. And Nax, what are her plans for the evening?
I think probably not wandering the perimeters too much, staying rather in the middle, but sort of keeping on the move so as to see a lot of what's going on. Okay. And probably, just keeping a close eye on things, really, but not wandering the outskirts too much.
Okay. What about Bill and Shooter?
So while dusk is falling, I'm going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to crush up some tack, rub it on some fish that we've caught. Need something to go with it, so just going to get some of these weird, like, starchy root vegetables that I've found growing nearby that seem all right. I'm going to cut them up, fry the whole thing up, it's going to be great. So I'll use my chef feat and give everybody a delicious snack that will give you all. Let's see.
Dysentery.
Yes. Okay, so you can eat one of these delicious snacks, and you will gain a bonus. You can use a bonus action to eat a treat and gain temporary hit points equal to my proficiency bonus, which is 3. So you can all have 3 temporary
Nice.
hit points if you want from these
Lovely.
tasty fish and chunks. I'm calling it.
Feel free to use the red bar on your tokens as temporary HP if that's convenient.
Beautiful.
Yeah, as you all eat these mysterious snacks that Bill has created, they've got a slightly rubbery taste from the tubers, but or a rubbery texture rather. But Bill has, with his chef skills, managed to get rid of the kind of muddy taste that the tubers had originally. So they're not half bad. What about Shooter? Well, you can't really see
equally
very far in front of you, Shooter. The fog is really choking the camp now. You can kind of see shapes dimly moving in the distance, but it's hard going.
Yeah, so Shooter's very basic in what he does. I mean, firstly, he's eagerly awaiting fish and chunks. That's the first thing on his mind. The second thing, he is a hunter by nature as well, so he sort of kind of likes his surroundings and likes the idea of that something might be in the forest, and it's quite exciting for him. So he's looking out as much as possible. But if he doesn't feel like he's needed or anything, he will just find the biggest rock or tree that has the most curved shape on it to give himself a bit of sleep before the real adventure starts.
Well, actually, as it happens, Shooter, just outside of the chapel, there's a lovely tree here that's just got a nice kind of curved bough that you could lean against.
Oh, I love it. And as he does, it curves even more.
Yeah. There's an ominous creak as you lean against it, yeah.
And maybe he might just, before he sets off, and as I say, he will go back to Nax and just put his hat out and say, "Can you put some of your magic in there?"
And yeah, as she's wandering past, she obliges with a bit of a frostbite, and maybe even shoots a ray of frost cantrip over at a nearby rock, which just goes a little bit cold, and she places it in his hat and says that should keep you going for the nighttime heat.
He takes one of the largest rocks in there and he puts it down his trousers and the rest on the top of his head.
And
leans against
Nax
the thing.
swiftly looks away.
He does it quite quickly. He's quite dexterous, his Shooter. But yeah, and then otherwise is once as he can't see much, he has a bit of a doze, waits for what's to be called.
Dietrich, as you've gone round successfully restraining all the guards and offering them a quick blessing in return, which I'm sure was a great comfort.
Yes.
Have you continued to patrol afterwards, or have you to detect that none of them have untied themselves?
I mean, I guess I'm tempted to. I'm going to cast light on the iron headband that I've got. So I'm just this walking torch.
Yeah.
Like walking nimbus of light. And then without really asking for permission, I'm gonna start like walking alongside Nax as she's just like wandering about the camp. Effectively, I'm wanting to do a circular patrol just to like keep an eye on the guards, see if any of the posts have gone like if there's just a rope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, whilst it is clear as night falls and I'm one of the brightest light sources just moving around, silhouetted, like reflecting off my bald head. I'm not overly phased.
Mm-hmm.
Just like bold as brass staring out into the darkness, tutting every so often.
The as you kind of walk the
We're getting swamped
Yeah,
by
probably.
insects at this point.
yeah, there's just like moths the size of
Yeah.
small dogs fluttering around Dietrich's face. Yeah, as you walk the perimeter, you kind of it's maybe the second or third time you've gone past, and the guards are notably kind of cheered by your presence, and always relieved
Yes.
to see that light kind of coming towards them through the fog. Many of them seem pretty jittery.
Well, just going to quickly jump back in. Sorry. How many of us are doing patrols? So Shooter's shacked up. Nax is wandering.
Max is wandering.
Yeah, I'll be
It's just
patrolling
you
as well
and-
once I finish
Bill
cooking.
is as well. Okay, great.
Okay. In which case, like before, like night properly falls, after I've given the token blessing of Sigmar to the guards, I'll gather the others, and I will. So, Nax, Bill, and Shooter all appear to be like doing guard duty actively, right?
Is Shooter still asleep under
I
his
guess
tree?
I-
It might just
Yeah,
Shooter's asleep,
Shooter's
aren't you?
kind of
Chris, pick her up.
sleeping, but is on call. I guess is the
Okay.
equivalent.
Yeah. So it'd be Nax, Bill, and yourself really that are actively doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Sure. In which case, yeah, I'll gather you together, and then I'll begin sort of like murmuring under my breath, and it like the beginning of an incantation. And it's one of those prayers that like you can't really hear what I'm saying, and every time you see me pause and like, oh, that's clearly the end of the prayer, like the next verse starts.
Brilliant.
And then like as one of you starts to move away, I'll just like with my eyes still closed, I'll just grab you and pull you back into the little prayer circle. And you all you gain the benefit of aid, so you'll gain 5 your hit point max is increased by 5.
Ooh.
Nice.
Lovely. And
that'd be
that's
for
like
the
8
night.
hours, isn't it?
8 hours, so the night.
Nice.
Yeah,
Great.
it's you 3 specifically, not myself.
Too bad.
So
Was that me? Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so an extra 5 hit points.
Nax and Bill have just been like pulling Dietrich towards Shooter when he's giving the birth, even though Shooter has no intention of hearing it, just so that he can benefit from its aura as well.
So after the prayer circle breaks up and you resume your patrolling, the 3 of you, can I ask you to make me a perception check, please?
Sorry, was that Nax?
Active or passive?
Active is fine. So Nax, Bill, and Dietrich, if you're the ones that are actively sort of walking around.
Ooh,
Oh.
Nax is on it.
On it.
17.
on it today. Yeah, 20.
So Bill, the fog is really, you can barely see kind of a hand in front of your face. You're basically just sort of trying to keep your eyes on the other's knees and follow those. But you're sort of stumbling around behind them, not really able to see much else. And you kind of wonder what the point of posting guards is if none of you can see anything.
Not very focused either, because it's a bit too dangerous to have like a lit cigarette out at this time of night. So I'm really annoyed.
Yeah, sure.
Meanwhile,
Nax, Dietrich, with your 17, from ahead of you, you kind of bid farewell to one guard and then start walking towards where you know the next one to be stationed. Even despite the poor visibility, you're just sort of hugging the tree line, and you kind of know where they all were. You hear what sounds a bit like a strangled cry, Dietrich. And Nax, with your 20, you might be able to see the kind of rough silhouette of what you take to be the guard ahead. Seems to kind of stiffen, and then the silhouette kind of crumples. And there's a sound consistent with that.
Okay. Is there any particular halberdier or just the one I'm nearest to right now?
Just the one that kind of you were walking towards, so still maybe 10, 15 feet ahead.
Okay. And is Dietrich slight within range? I mean, I would know exactly where Dietrich is.
Yeah, so as you kind of get, it's this halberdier here, basically. As you kind of approach, the three of you would be able to kind of bump into this prone form, still tied at the waist to the peg that Dietrich's hammered into the ground, but it seems to be face down, dropped his weapon, and doesn't appear to be moving.
I'll immediately rush to him and I'll start like checking for vitals.
I'll
Sure.
probably assist with that as well.
I'm going to slip into the shadows, I think.
Okay.
I don't like it.
So Bill can give me a stealth check, and the others can give me medicine. Great.
Were you aiding?
I mean, possibly not much can improve that, but I would be happy to, depending on how Matt wants to play.
Yeah, that's fine.
Assistance.
22 is good. So between the two of you, kind of looking over this body, it's difficult to do a thorough examination in the fog. There doesn't seem to be any particular wounds on this guard. He seems kind of not been stabbed or bludgeoned or anything like that. There's no sort of sign of a wild beast having mauled him in any way. It was no kind of scream or anything. The most you heard was kind of a strangled gasp, maybe. But he is very clearly dead. And
right.
When you almost miss it, but with the 22, I think you probably spot it just as you're about to give up. In the flesh of his neck, Dietrich, you see a small, colourful dart of some kind.
Okay.
The area around it seems to be kind of swollen and purple. That's what kind of helps you to spot it.
Okay. In which case, I'll very carefully pull the dart from the guard's neck, and then looking slightly over my shoulder to Nax. Can you hear or see anyone?
No, not at present. But if you're thinking what I'm thinking about, that little mark that you've just pointed out, perhaps we should pull that rope a little bit nearer to the centre of the camp. Something obviously projected that in his direction.
That it did. And because I'm a warrior priest of Sigmar and therefore bombastic, I'll look to you and yes, we could. And I'll stand up and grasping the hammer, the sigil of the Warhammer around my neck, I'll bellow, "Show yourselves, heathens!" And I will cast, using a 3rd level spell slot, I will cast Daylight.
God.
Amazing.